Please stand and join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote.
Trustee Lancaster,
Here.
Trustee Thiel,
Here.
President Hanchke.
Here. Correction and approval of the previous minutes.
So how does that work when I wasn't here last year? So like what's the right protocol there?
So Megan and I discussed this prior because we thought this might be a potential topic of discussion. So obviously 2 out of the 3 board members who were on the Board of Review last year, because it was Julene, Darlene, and Allison, 2 of which are no longer on the board. Megan said we'll have to get the minutes approved, so one way or another. So if you want to table it until the August meeting and listen to the minutes, because it was just an audio, that way they can get approved.
So who wrote the minutes?
Megan did, because the minutes were not completed, so she recently did them before this meeting.
Oh,
So
she listened to the recording and did it?
correct, she
Oh,
did,
okay.
and then obviously there were some notes that were from the meeting, kind of like on the agenda, so she listened and she's the one who put the minutes
Okay.
together.
Based on Megan just recently listening to it and putting it together, I'm comfortable. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by trustee Lancaster,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure, so, for the minutes from August
August
7th,
7th,
2024, with Megan, just recently listening to the recording and writing them, I'm comfortable approving them, so I made a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second that.
so we got a motion by trustee Lancaster, a second by trustee Thiel. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against, motion passes.
I'll just make a comment going forward. We discussed that after the August meeting, before one of the village board meetings, we will probably get the Board of Review together again just to approve the minutes from August. That way we don't have this situation again next year where potentially the Board of Review committee changes and the same thing happens again. So
Okay.
we have an idea
Makes
moving
sense.
forward, so.
So that was a lot of meeting to review for
It was about an hour and a half because you have to be open for 2 hours, the Board of Review, so I don't believe too many people came last year. So there was quite a lull period in between, but it wasn't too bad,
It was a
as you said.
maintenance year last year, so
Yeah.
this is,
As
we
opposed to-
may potentially have, a few people, I know that there's, concerns about the latest activity for assessments, that it's gonna raise taxes and whatnot, so, I know staff has been trying to, educate the public as far as, the assessments, what it means, how you come about it, all that stuff, so, I've already went through Board of Review. I challenged my property back in 2005 and I won. But, all you need to do is bring in a recent, refinance or a realtor, comp. And it needs to fall in within plus or minus 10% of the assessed value in order. So we'll see how the assessment company does their homework or their activities, and we'll hopefully won't get too many challenges.
That's right.
The key
But
is,
it's probably they're based on where they say we're at, where compared to where we should be, what, 30%? Or
Well-
only 70% of, so there could be some pretty significant adjustments.
there's gonna be some significant adjustments. I mean, even just, I know a house just behind me just sold and they were assessed at 200 some thousand and it sold for 450, so it's just, I mean, there's going to be some.
Yeah,
That's part of it too, I think it's just gonna be whatever hopefully the materials that the assessor is putting together, just because the assessments go up doesn't mean the taxes are going up.
Mhm.
But also, I think there's a lot of people that probably have no idea how much their houses are really, and or properties are really worth, because if you would've told me that, I realize the market, but if you
Right.
would've said the houses in my neighborhood are selling for what they're selling for, I'd be like, without seeing the actual, cause I looked some of them up and like, I can't believe what people are, what some of these houses are selling for, so.
Mhm.
So Alyssa, from your perspective,
Mhm.
what does it mean if the assessment values go higher for people? Does it?
I mean, it depends, obviously, we have to wait with the marketing material that they're going to send out. We already approved it, so there's a good question and answer page in there about, you know, can their assessment ever go down? You know, what does basically it mean? Why are they revaluing, things like that? And at the top, they're going to put the average increase, of, you know, basically the homes. So typically, if you're about the average, you know, it should stay pretty, you know, pretty much the same in regards to the taxes. It's also tough to tell because obviously no taxing jurisdiction has done their budget yet for this upcoming year. So to say nobody's, you know, just cause it even is, let's say it goes up 30% and you went up 30, that doesn't mean your taxes won't increase, because again, you have several taxing jurisdictions. If a school district comes yet and wants to do a referendum, you know, we're not controlling that, your taxes could go up. But typically, if you're about the average, your taxes should stay the same if no other factors occur.
You're saying dollar amount, not.
Correct, dollar amount, yes.
So that's what I've been telling people,
Mhm.
is even though your assessment value goes up, the operational cost
Mhm.
does not go up the same.
Correct, the village
percentage.
does not increase the tax levy amount we're bringing in, it's just how it gets distributed back out to basically our tax base.
So the levy gets adjusted.
Correct, I mean, well, the levy stays the same or about that, but it's just
The
who,
mill rate gets adjusted.
Correct,
Goes
yeah.
into the levy.
Okay.
Correct.
And that also.
That's the term, right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, mill rate gets.
Yep.
And the mill rate can be adjusted depending on borrowing and debt service.
Correct.
So.
Yep.
I think you guys,
Mhm.
you'll have a
Mhm.
busy time this year, so.
So, we're friends with a couple who, the lady retired as the department head for the city of Appleton assessor department. And she ran that for a lot of years. And I was talking to her about, you know, this, and, she said a lot of municipalities are going to every year now, doing a reassessment, or at least.
a
you know,
market update, yep.
Maybe not 100%, but,
Mhm.
you know, every year you do some,
Correct.
I don't know where, you know.
We do ours every 5.
Right,
And that's something that can be negotiated, our contract with Accurate Assessors is up at the end of this year, I believe. So
Okay.
that's something that if the board so chooses, or even the village, we could negotiate something else in our contract where maybe it is every other, or every 3 years. That'd be totally up, you know, to the board and kind of how we wanted to proceed. But the contract is up, I believe, at the end of this year.
But
The
I suppose
perception,
that
the
comes with-
perception though is that if you do that, that we're looking to grab money, right? It's a money grab, that's what people's perception is, if you assess more often on a higher period, frequency than the once every 5, but.
It's tough, I mean, it keeps you more in line with the market, you know, the more often you do it versus waiting 5 years, because if there is a drastic change, you know, where, let's say someone's house significantly increases.
This is a drastic change, I mean.
Right, but you don't see as drastic of changes if you're doing it every 2-3 years, you know, it's more
that
gradual.
falls far behind
That-
the market, you know, in a rising market
Mhm.
situation.
That's where I do think we're gonna have to look at it different.
Right.
Part of it is that I'd be interested in understanding from the assessor too is what's the trends?
Mhm.
I know like Buchanan reassesses every year, for example, and I know they've gotten some negative publicity from doing that.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, I don't think we can go 5 years like we have here and have these I mean, it's just so drastic that on
Mhm.
their hand, there's a lot of negative, I mean, people are gonna have sticker shock when they open their envelopes.
Correct.
So, there's negative publicity around that too.
Mhm.
And my understanding is too, we're not, right now, like sales and stuff don't all taken into account because they can't. They gotta keep things equal, so a lot of even recent sales are really not reassessed completely because then those properties would be paying way more than the rest of the village, so that's one reason why Buchanan went to doing it every year, was they wanted to keep things more equal, so. But there's a cost to, part of it is what is accurate, or whoever's gonna charge us to be doing that too and stuff, so and all that has to, it's gonna be a good future agenda topic, I think, after we see how this all goes to
Correct.
figure out overall for the board, for sure.
Yep. For sure.
Now, you said our contract is up at the end of this year,
I
was
believe
that
so,
correct?
yes.
Now, some municipalities employ their own assessors, or assessor, or multiple
Mhm.
assessors, right, depending on the size, I
Mhm.
suppose. And, so we hire, so we're paying for that service, right?
Mhm. Correct.
If we only do it every 5 years, it means we're not paying much, or we'd have to pay more to do it more frequently?
You would typically, the contract is more like, let's say you sign a 3-year contract and the year, let's say you have a revaluation, that typically, that would be a higher year, but they usually average them out, so you pay the same every 3
Okay.
years. And they are doing other work on the opposite years, just because, you know, there are a lot of new construction homes, so they still need to be valuing those. So they do work, it's just
Remodeling
obviously.
too?
Correct, yep, a lot of those things, looking at the building permits, anything that gets pulled, they have to look at those home values on an annual basis. Just overall, looking at everyone's home, that would be where either a market update or a revaluation would come into effect.
Now, so, the assessment, last one was done 5 years ago, if
Mhm.
something happened in the interim,
Mhm.
there would have been a reassessment.
For those individuals,
We
correct.
built, more recently than 5 years
Mhm.
ago, and we have not seen any requests for an assessment.
But if you built, like, the first year, you would have been assessed on your land, and then whatever was there as of January 1st, so if you were like 75%, you would have seen that, and then the following year, you'd have been at 100% of the value at that time. Now, from there, every year, unless there's a market update or a reval, you won't just see your house go up unless you pull a permit or, you know, something significant changed.
Okay, I maybe misled you, we did have an initial
Okay.
assessment, obviously.
Mhm.
But we did not, get a request for an assessor to come and.
For this year.
For this year to come and do a reassessment.
Not all the time will they enter everyone's home, just because that would be a massive, undertaking based on the staff members they have. Certain people got, a letter, this was a couple weeks ago, that they do go out and, look at everyone's homes, or they try to look at comparables, but they can't, make it in everybody's homes to take a look at everything you have.
So it's my understanding in the training that I did that, a lot of the challenges are just handled straight up with the assessor.
During open
And
book,
never come to a board of review
correct.
correct.
That's typically done at open book, yep.
at open book.
Yep, and
When-
that's 3
or-
days
or
we have in the
after open
office.
book.
Yep, it could be before it gets to board or review, correct.
When does someone know that there has been a reassessment done?
So
Is
they
it-
get a letter in the mail.
Oh,
So
they
this
do.
week, the assessor's letting me know the day they're being mailed, but this week, the letters will go out to
Okay.
notify all the homeowners what their value is.
All right, that's all, it's not as they happen, it's all.
Everyone will get a letter at the same time, and then the
Okay.
process on if they don't agree, what the process will be, when open book is, and then when board of review is, and kind of the process on how they need to go
And
about
that's
that.
in June, right?
July will be open book, cause
Okay.
we're in June now, so July will be open book, and then August will be the board of review.
So unless you've done a refinance in the last 6 months or done a realtor comp,
Mhm.
and if that assessment is within plus or minus 10%, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's over 10%, they will mark it down to the 10% mark. So typically the assessors will go to the plus side, cause then it kinda helps out, cause if they make it exactly the same dollar value, then you're gonna have those assessments over years fall further back. So. Any other questions for Alyssa? Otherwise, we're gonna go to the next item, which is status of the assessment roll. So, because the assessment roll is not complete, we will need to adjourn till August 13th, 2025. Is there a motion on this?
You have to make a motion, yeah.
Motion to
Motion to adjourn until August 13th.
so I'm gonna need a motion to adjourn till August 13th.
Motion to adjourn the board of review, until August 13th, 2025 at 2 p.m.
Second that motion.
So we got a motion by trustee Lancaster, a motion by trustee Thiel. Those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye. Call this meeting adjourned.